From weekend getaways to extended road trips, California is full of places to explore. And for over 100 years, the Auto Club has been there to help. Our travel agents offer you expertise regarding destination information, trip planning and reservations, either in office, on the phone, or online. Across the state, throughout the country, or around the world, through all life's travels, we're always with you.
Road Trip has been made possible by the Automobile Club of Southern California.
Hello everybody, I'm Huell Howser, and here we are in Sebastopol, California, and we're at ground zero, aren't we? I found a local here at the ATM machine, and I asked you if this was ground zero, and what did you say?
This is definitely it. This is the center of town. This block right here is the center of Sebastopol, California.
And all this traffic, where's everybody going?
Let's see, these folks are going out toward Bodega Bay to the ocean, and these ones here are going towards Santa Rosa, and down on the main street, they're all heading toward 101, Cotati, and 101 South. So this is the very center.
There's a lot of movement going on here today. It's actually a Saturday morning. Things are hopping here in Sebastopol. We're going to spend the whole day in this area of Sonoma County. We're looking forward to a great day. We're here on a road trip.
This is a great town. Sebastopol's the best town in California.
Well, here we are. We're starting our road trip, and we're starting it right out in the middle of Main Street here in a town, and I want to make sure, because when I first said where we were, I wasn't sure how to pronounce it. Is it Sebastopol?
Well, we folks here pretty much call it Sebastopol, but there is a country element that maintains it's pronounced Sebastopol.
Sebastopol. Sebastopol.
Sebastopol.
Where does that word come from?
It's from the Russian town in the Crimea, Sebastopol, and in 1855, when there was a big siege going on in the Crimea, in the Crimean War, two gentlemen in Sebastopol had a fight. One of them hid in a store, and the other gentleman said, "That store ain't no Sebastopol." And ever since then, we stopped being Pine Grove, California, and became Sebastopol, California.
Boy, you all know your history. It's a good thing we hooked up with you. Introduce yourself to everybody.
I'm Tom Harriman.
Nice to meet you.
Jan King.
Nice to meet you all. And you all are connected with the West County Museum, the Western Sonoma County Historical Society. And a beautiful little building it is, but when I look up at the top there, it says Petaluma and Santa Rosa Railroad Company. What's that all about?
Believe it or not, that was an electric railroad that ran from Santa Rosa to Petaluma and also to Sebastopol, and this was the original train depot built in 1917.
Okay, so it was a big deal to have this electric railroad.
Well, before the invention of the car, in 1904, the railroad started doing passenger and freight service, continued passenger service until 1933, and freight service into the 80s. And the train ran right down Main Street until 1987.
So it ran right through the middle of town, and how far did it go?
All the way to Petaluma, which is about 12 miles away.
You're kidding.
And over to Santa Rosa, which is about 8 miles.
So this was a big deal.
It carried eggs, it carried apples, it carried produce all the way to market.
Was this part of Sonoma County kind of known for this big train that went down through town?
Sure. We had trains all over Sonoma County. And of course, this was one of the last ones to still be running. Folks used to take the train to the high school. Train used to go up to Forestville toward the Russian River, and it moved berries and people around for a long time.
So it wasn't really a trolley, it was a train.
The looks a little like a trolley, but it was an electric train. Sometimes it'd only be one car at a time. And it's fitting that it was an electric train because in the year 2000, Sebastopol became the only city in America with a Green Party city council majority. So I'm sure they support now the reinvention, the reinstallation of the electric train.
I'm learning how to say Sebastopol. Yep. Sebastopol.
Sebastopol.
Now, is that still an actual town?
It's a very big town in the Crimea, which I think has now gone back to the Ukraine, but it's a town of 1 million or 2 in Russia.
Now we've come inside the museum, and a beautiful little museum it is, Jan, but there's a story connected with the inside of the museum and the railroad as well.
There sure is. This was originally the waiting room of the train station. For a while it was used as a courtroom, and then it became a flower shop.
Uh-oh.
So this was all plants, and the walls were painted bright green enamel.
When the Historical Society got hold of it.
When we took it over, we wanted to restore it to its original look.
And how hard was it to restore, to take the layers of history back and get that red paint from the flower shop off the wall?
Well, first of all, it was all volunteers. It was the Historical Society that did it, and everybody was old. So all of us old people on hands and knees had to scrape the floor.
Now, wait a minute. Is this the, look at this. Is this the original?
This is the original floor.
Oh, this is beautiful
Yes, it is.
tile. And isn't it great that it survived all those
Yes,
years?
it is.
Because this was put here in...
1917.
Wow. Okay, so we got the tile restored. What about the rest of the room?
This wall paneling had 4 layers of paint that we had to scrape. We put chemicals on it and then had to scrape it off.
So wait a minute. You mean this is the original wood?
This is the original wood.
Whoa.
Yep.
And what about the rest of the wall, the stucco and all of that?
The outside was stucco, and one of the things we had to do to restore the building is do a seismic retrofit. And that meant chopping out the bottom layer of the stucco. That was fine, we did all that work. Then we had to re-stucco and make it look like the original stucco out there. It turns out this is Russian River sand stucco. Nobody knew how to make it look like that. So we had to dig back in history and find a guy, an old guy that used to make stucco out of Russian River sand, and he came and recreated the look.
That, you know, that's a story in itself.
Yep.
Just bringing this back. And the average person like me coming in here wouldn't know all the effort that you all took to make it, to take it back to 1917.
All volunteers, all donations.
Wow. Well, it's a beautiful museum, and we're standing in front of this, what is this, a mural?
This was a mural in one of the local banks, but it shows you the freight that the train carried. Milk, eggs, Gravenstein apples. That's what Sebastopol is famous for.
Ah, so this is an apple town.
Yes. Of course, now it's becoming a grape town, but originally it was apples.
And what's that chicken doing over there?
Producing eggs.
Okay, so we got eggs, milk, and apples.
Right.
And the apples in Sebastopol were called what?
They're Gravenstein apples. They're apples with a very short shelf life. So it was important that they got on the train quickly, and the train brought them to market.
Everything revolves around the train.
You bet.
And they invented applesauce here.
Oh, you're kidding.
We used to have many canneries. We still have 2 left, and still make apple juice and applesauce.
Wait a minute. This town, Sebastopol, literally invented applesauce. How is that documented?
Canned applesauce.
That's documented.
Yes, sir.
We have left the museum and come to the Powerhouse Brewing Company, which is located right behind the museum. Now, it's not even 10 o'clock in the morning. It's a little early for a beer. Why did you bring us here?
This is called the Powerhouse because this is the building that generated the electricity for the electric railroad.
Ah, so it ties into the railroad.
Yes, it does.
This is a beautiful old stone building.
Yes, it was built in 1903 using from the same quarry that has the outside part of the train station, the museum, this Stony Point Quarry sandstone.
Well, now, wait a minute. The station was built in 1917. This was built in 1903.
They started running the train in 1904 once they had the electric power, but they didn't get around to building the fancy train station until 1917.
And now it's become a place where people go to drink beer.
That's right. They make the beer right there, and they sell it and have a restaurant and have music.
But isn't it nice that it has been preserved and it has found a use? It's just not a musty old building.
Absolutely, and it's a hopping place.
Well, it's a little early in the morning for it to be hopping, but I have a feeling that people here in this part of Sonoma County really care about their history.
They do, and that's why we formed the Western Sonoma County Historical Society.
And this is an official landmark.
This is on the National Register of Historic Landmarks,
This one.
as well as the train station.
Wow. Okay, now looking across the street, this probably isn't on the National Register, but I couldn't help but see it over your shoulder while we were talking. What's the deal on the Purina Chow's building?
Well, this is Frizellina's, and not only is it a traditional feed store with alfalfa and baby chicks and things like that, but as Sebastopol has become kind of an urban, yuppified place, now you can buy Birkenstocks and environmentally sensitive wood pellet stoves.
As well you should be, and I notice you've already been shopping there.
These are the official shoes of Sebastopol.
But that building, for those of us who wouldn't know, we would just think it was a feed store. But for people who know their history, they would realize that this harkens back to the days when you were here in the county.
And the railroad used to take the eggs down to Petaluma, because Petaluma calls itself the egg basket of the world. So one of the ways that small farmers survived was they raised poultry and shipped eggs and chicks and things of that nature out of Petaluma.
And the people here in Sebastopol would have used it for...
That's where we get the chicken feed. So it's not, and it's a big business, chicken feed.
Still,
It's not just chicken feed.
Not chicken feed.
along with being able to buy your...
Yes, the North American headquarters for Birkenstocks is just down the highway in Marin County.
There's just way too much information this morning. It's all very interesting. When you come to this town, you better get ready to be surrounded with history and interesting little facts.
That's right.
Okay, we have walked around behind the old electric Powerhouse, which is now a brewing company, because you all told me there's something that goes on here every Saturday morning that is a part of the culture of Northern California.
Well, Johnny Otis, who's in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, broadcasts a live rhythm and blues music show from 9 o'clock to noon every Saturday morning from Sebastopol.
From this building.
From this building.
And the reason this guy's here, introduce yourself to everybody.
My name's Doug Pollock.
We met in the parking lot out front.
That's right.
Because you said you had come here for this radio show.
That's right, to see the show.
You
to meet
drove
Johnny
in
Otis,
from
Sacramento.
So you're a big fan of his? You listen to his show every week?
That's correct. Yeah, it's very entertaining.
What's the show like? I've never heard it before.
Well, he has a great library of music and a great knowledge of music, and he talks a lot too, and he's just enjoyable.
Now he's known, why is that name familiar?
He had a big hit in the 50s called The Hand Jive, and all of his children were on in the band. Shuggy Otis is his son, and he has his grandson, Lucky Otis, playing drums, and he still has a band and a review.
And he's 80 years old.
All right, let's go inside and meet Johnny Otis. This is very unexpected, but exciting. It's a live radio show. Oh, this is interesting. We're inside, and this must be the man himself over here. Good morning.
How are you?
I'm Huell Howser.
Hi, Huell.
We have heard so much about you and this radio show that you do here every Saturday morning. What's the deal on this?
I don't know. The man that owns the joint hasn't caught on yet, and don't tell him, because we sneak in here and do a show every week.
How long have you been doing it from this little room here in the basement of the brewery?
A couple of years, but the show is like 25 years old.
Didn't you used to do something in L.A.?
Yes, I did. The same network. You know.
This is on Pacifica.
Pacifica.
And what's the premise of the show? What you playing? Just kind of classic music, or
Black music, basically rhythm and blues, some gospel, some jazz. Yeah.
And you just kind of hang out here in the morning, and the deal is, look, you've just got a little audience here where people come in and eat breakfast and drink coffee and just kind of hang out here.
That's right. Well, it's fun. We have some regulars whom we see them regularly, and some that we welcome and some we can't get rid of. So what can I tell you?
Well, it has a good feel in here. Everybody's having a good time here.
This music, this marvelous African-American artistry that we have so much of, date back to the turn of the century, the other century. It just makes you feel. Listen, can you hear?
Oh yeah.
Louis Armstrong.
Absolutely.
So.
That's what this program celebrates every Saturday morning.
Yes. Black music, exactly. Not any one particular form, but basically rhythm and blues and some jazz, some gospel.
Well, that's what you've spent your whole life doing.
That's right. That's right. And it's too late now.
Well, you performed it, and now you're playing it on the radio.
True, true.
Now, don't you live here in Sebastopol?
I do, yeah.
Why did you choose this town when you left L.A.?
When I was a kid in Berkeley, because I'm from Berkeley, my dad used to load up the old Model T, and we'd put up here to Sonoma County, and I used to see these little farms, you know, with the sheep and whatnot, a few turkeys and a few chickens, and I used to love it. And I said, if I ever get a chance, and one day a few years back, about 11 or 12 years ago, I told my wife, I said, baby, what are we doing up here in Los Angeles? And let's go back home. She said, let's go. And we did. We came back.
You're back home.
Yeah.
Back home in Sebastopol and back home on the radio celebrating this music.
True. You're right, Joe.
Thank you for letting us share a little bit of time with you.
Oh, you're
We're going to stick around for a while and have breakfast.
Do it.
And listen to a little bit of the radio show.
All right. Joe.
Thank you very, very much. The name of the show every Saturday morning is...
The Johnny Otis Show. Hey! All right. Here comes Muddy Waters, children, and honeybee, honeybee.
Gotta go to with a pistol in his hand, looking for his woman and sneaking man. Do the hand jive, do the hand jive, do the hand jive, baby, doing that crazy hand jive.
Well, now for the last chapter in our Santa Rosa and Petaluma Railroad story. I didn't know it was going to have this many chapters. Tom and Jan have brought us to this amazing place and introduced us to this fella. Your name again
Jeff
is?
Millrick Huell.
Now, they told me that you were a boat builder. There's your boat right over there, but it looks to me like, from what else I see out here in the side yard, you've got something else going on out here,
We
too.
have a little railroad history out here, Huell.
You sure do. And that's what we're here to look for, because I understand that you have one of the last remaining actual pieces of that railroad that used to run right down Main Street from Sebastopol all the way to Petaluma.
Petaluma, that's correct, Huell. It also ran to Santa Rosa and to Forestville North. There was about 46 miles of right-of-way. And this was an electric railroad, the only electric railroad in Sonoma County in Northern California.
It was such a big part of the history of this part of California. How did you get hold of this car? And it looks like it's in great shape, so obviously you've worked hard to restore it.
Yes, this here was found on a chicken ranch in the Petaluma area, Pin Grove, Petaluma area. And by accident, through a friend telling us about it, we went down there and discovered this sitting on the back of the ranch, and it had been made into a feed shed, storage shed.
Gosh, it's probably in really bad shape.
It was. It had a tree growing right through the middle of this end. And so we knew about it for about a year and thought about it. Thought, you know, that's too nice a piece of California or Sonoma County history to be lost. So my brother and myself and a friend of ours, we went down and hauled this thing home against our better judgment, of course.
And started work on it.
Started to restore
now, what are you going to do with it? You're not going to keep something this beautiful just sitting out here in this side yard, are you?
Well, it's a labor of love. And first of all, we did it to see it and to save a piece of Sonoma County history. The thoughts of what to do with it afterwards didn't enter the picture at the time. So since our restoring this, there's a gentleman down in Petaluma by the name of Lauren Williams who's trying to start the Petaluma Trolley. The Petaluma Trolley has at this time about 1.5 miles of the original PNSR tracks in the middle of the street, down their waterfront street, and wraps around the waterfront. They hope to reactivate that track and another 1.5 miles down to the outlet malls, and have this historical trolley that would be a real asset to the downtown area of Petaluma.
Isn't that great? Because that's bringing together, that's got the original track, it'll have one of the original cars, so the old Santa Rosa and Petaluma Railroad is coming back.
We're keeping history alive here in the Sebastopol area.
Wow, that is great. Congratulations. Your name again?
Jeff Miller.
Let's get a shot of you standing over there by your car here, because you've done a lot to help preserve this wonderful bit of California and Sonoma County history. The Santa Rosa and Petaluma Railroad is getting ready to be alive and well again after all these years.
A little
Bye-bye.
piece of it anyhow.
Thanks.
Take care, you all. Very nice talking to you.
Well, the tour never ends. Jan and Tom have brought us to yet another, and this place looks very interesting, and it's not over a mile or two from where we were earlier this morning. Where are we standing? What is this?
This was the Japanese Railroad Pavilion at the Chicago 1932 World's Fair. It came in pieces from Japan because it's assembled without nails. Some of the local Japanese Americans from Sebastopol saw it at the World's Fair and said, what are you going to do with it when the fair is over? The people didn't know what to do with it, so they sold it to the Sebastopolians. Wait a minute. What is that word you just used? Sebastopolians. That's the residents of Sebastopol.
Okay.
Liverpudlians.
Oh, okay. You just kind of diverted me for a minute. Now back to the story.
So they put it back together in boxes, put it on the railroad, because remember we had a railroad. The railroad went right in front here. So they brought it in boxes, and in 1934 they reassembled it, and it's now the church for the Enmanji Buddhist Church of Sebastopol.
Wow, what an amazing history.
And so today it's an active Buddhist church. It was closed down from 1942 to 1946 because all of the congregants were locked up at Camp Amici, Colorado. But it's back in business since '46 and is our local Buddhist church.
Let's just take a quick look over here. This was all assembled originally from Japan to Chicago.
That's right.
Then disassembled, brought here by train, and then reassembled. Boy, what a beautiful, beautiful place. And to think it's been from Japan to Chicago and now back in Sebastopol. It's just, is this authentic in every sense of the word?
It was, built new in 1932. It wasn't a historical structure, but it's a copy of, I guess, an existing Japanese structure.
We have come inside the temple, and we were so fortunate to meet you. Your name is?
Reverend Himaka.
You're the minister here.
Yes, resident minister here.
And tell us a little bit, we've heard the history of the building, how it got here from Chicago of all places, but this is still an operating, functioning, very alive temple, isn't it? This isn't just a piece of old history.
No, it's actively used today by our congregation, yes.
Tell us about the congregation. Who are they? Where do they come from?
Well, mostly they're the descendants from the original Japanese people who founded it, and they're still coming here.
Now, do they live in this Sebastopol area?
Yes, they do live in the Sebastopol area. Many of them, however, also live in Petaluma.
So this has a real place in their hearts.
Oh, yes.
This goes back in their families that have worshipped here over the generations.
Oh, yes, this is their second home.
Is this the way it would have looked when it was reconstructed here back in the 1930s?
Oh, yes. Very little has changed. They've done some modernizing as far as acoustical ceiling and refurbishing of the window areas that were not, they didn't have window panes at that time. But otherwise, the floor is the original floor, and the decorations around the wall, those are the originals also.
So this was well built.
Yes, it's oddly enough well built, that it was a temporary structure, but very well built.
Yeah, because it was built for the World's Fair.
Right, but it was only meant to be a temporary structure. Yeah.
And it is now well into its...
way beyond 60 years.
Right.
Yes.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you very much for coming.
This is a very, very beautiful and historic place that is still very much in use today.
Thank you very much for coming.
Now we are ready for a real treat. We have hooked up with Bob Hornback, who is here at Gold Ridge, which is the Luther Burbank Experimental Farm, established back in 1885.
Yes.
And before we start this tour, for most of us, when you hear the word Burbank,
Right.
wouldn't you think 9 out of 10
Burbank,
people will
California.
think of Burbank, California?
Right,
But
yeah.
Luther Burbank
Wrong.
had absolutely nothing to do with
No,
Burbank, California.
It was named for a dentist entrepreneur who wasn't even a relative of Luther Burbank's.
All right, so we got the Burbank, California
exactly.
connection out of the way.
Right, exactly.
Who was Luther Burbank, and why is he so important today in California, actually all over the world?
All over the world, yeah, world famous. Luther Burbank was called the plant wizard, a title that he didn't like. And he came from Massachusetts. He came out here in 1875 and established Goldridge Farm in 1885.
Now, is this where he lived?
No, he didn't live here. He lived in Santa Rosa, which is about 7-8 miles, away from here. This is where he stayed overnight. He would commute, to this farm about 3 days a week, and work out here all day long. And instead of going all the way back to Santa Rosa, which was about an hour and a half, distant, from here, he would stay overnight here at the farm.
Okay, let's walk and talk about what he did here at the farm. Okay. What was his whole passion?
Burbank was probably the greatest plant hybridizer who ever came along.
Wait a minute, the plant what?
Hybridizer, plant breeder.
Okay.
Yeah. And he is credited with having developed about 800 new and useful plants in about a 50-year working period.
Really?
His most famous introductions are things like the Santa Rosa plum, the Burbank potato, which is incredibly famous, and the Shasta daisy. We have a substantial Shasta daisy collection here in his honor, as a matter of fact.
Now, what are these right here? Because these are absolutely beautiful.
Aren't they nice? Yeah, they're very fragrant too. These are the so-called naked ladies, the Amaryllis, Amaryllis belladonna. They're a South African bulb, and this is their blooming time. They come up, the flowers come up apart from the foliage. Foliage comes up in the spring, dies down, and then the flowers come up around August. And what's interesting here is that these are the straight species type Amaryllis, and this plant in the middle is a hybrid that Burbank made. It's called an amacrinum. Now, these are not in bloom right now, but these are crinums, crinum lilies, which have a white Easter lily type flower. And these were crossed with the naked lady Amaryllis to produce this.
So why was he so compelled to create all of these new strains of plants and vegetables and on trees and everything, wasn't it?
Okay, yeah, all kinds of grains, vegetables, flowers, fruits, the whole bit. He started improving fruits and vegetables. And when he first came to California back in '75, he could see that you could grow probably any kind of thing out here that you wanted. And the potential for shipping, fruit out of state, was tremendous. The railroad industry was just developing at that time. And unfortunately, the varieties of fruits that were being raised here in California were not suitable for shipping out of state. They were they didn't grow well here. They were mostly from Europe and from back east. So he set out developing varieties of fruit that could be grown here in California, and then it could be developed for shipping.
So it was a very practical reason that he did this. This wasn't esoteric. This was pure capitalism.
He was a Massachusetts boy. He really knew his business.
Now wait a minute. What are you carrying this rose for?
I just felt like I had to do this. This is a Burbank hybrid rose, and the variety is called Burbank. Luther took a prize for this one, a gold medal for this prize at the Louisiana Purchase Exposition. It was 1890, if I remember correctly.
Is this still known as the Burbank rose?
Yes, this is known as the Burbank rose.
So rose lovers would know this.
Yeah, it's quite fragrant and very prolific.
Boy, he liked things that smelled, didn't he?
Yeah, he did. They all had to have good fragrance, good smell, that sort of thing, good taste.
So he experimented with roses, but look at all this over here. And when you talk about the farm, would this have all been covered with rows of...
The original property was just over 18 acres. Okay, it's been pared down now to about 2 to 3 acres. Part of it is now in a housing development. Okay, so he had arranged the rows sometimes as much as 700 feet long or longer, running north and south, through this property.
And he would have mixed. He would have had a row of plums and a row of apples and a row of roses.
Hundreds and hundreds of different experiments. He claimed he had as many as 3,000 experiments going simultaneously.
And he kept all of this kind of secret, didn't he?
Oh yes, it was all fenced. The gates were locked. He really just tried to discourage people from coming out here to visit him because this was his private laboratory.
What was he worried about? They'd steal his ideas?
Steal the plants. There were no plant patent laws during his lifetime to protect his work. So his work literally could be ripped off and, remarketed, sold by somebody else.
Now, were any of these trees here when well, this would have been here maybe when he was here.
Well, actually, the oak tree probably came up after he was here. There were oak trees on the property before he ever purchased it back in '85. But since that time, most of those were cleared off and then replanted with the experiments.
And why did he choose this area of California? Was this a good area climate-wise to do this kind of research?
The classic statement is that he considered this the perfect area on the whole earth. This was God's country.
That sounds like a Chamber of Commerce.
It was used as a headline on the local paper, for many, many years. Luther Burbank's statement about the perfection of this area.
Yeah.
Right.
Now, why is he important today? And let's walk back down and see a few more of these plants. But why would his name last on like it has? And why do people still come here to visit this place, kind of like a shrine? People who are into this stuff, really, he's a very famous person.
Okay, remember I was talking about the development of the fruit varieties? Burbank was the one who created California as the fruit bowl of the world. He established the fruit growing industry here in California.
Really?
Yes. And then beyond that, things like the Burbank potato, which is better known now as the Idaho or Idaho russet potato.
You mean the Idaho potato was developed by Luther Burbank?
Yes. And is a radical departure from anything that had gone before.
Wow.
Is now the most widely grown potato in this country.
So just those alone would mark his place in history. These look more like just flowers, and the flowers are interesting.
He's very much into ornamentals as well. Those blue flowers in the background are a hybrid nightshade, and to be very truthful, none of us have ever figured out exactly what it is. It was just one of the plants that we found here on the farm back about 20 years ago. But off here in the front, they're just finishing their bloom, is the Shasta daisy collection. We're now up to about 25 varieties of Shasta daisies, probably the largest.
Burbank created.
Exactly. He took 17 years to create the Shasta daisy by hybridizing 4 different daisy species. It was his labor of love. And at the time he started, daisies were just weeds. Okay, he decided that he was going to create them as a garden flower. So he initially released them in 1901. And we were just celebrating the centennial of the introduction, a couple of years ago.
So Luther Burbank really is a name that we should all know.
Oh, yes.
School kids should know his name.
Exactly. Right.
Was he famous in his time?
He was one of the most famous men in the world.
Really?
Yeah. And his portrait was as well known as that of any American president.
You're kidding.
Yeah. His Santa Rosa Gardens, again about 8 miles from here, were as famous as the Great Pyramids of Egypt.
What?
Yeah.
And yet today he's so obscure in so many ways.
Well, not around Sonoma County.
No, I understand that, but I mean, worldwide, you're saying he was one of the most famous men in the world. His picture was immediately recognizable. Right. Today, you really have to be into this sort of thing to even know his name.
Exactly. Well, he was one of the innovators. He was credited with having advanced the science of plant breeding by as much as half a century. However, there have been many, many, many plant breeders since that time, and of course they've been able to stand on his shoulders and, go from there.
He laid the foundation.
He laid the foundation, yeah. And like so many, I think too that, his good friends Henry Ford and Thomas Edison, are much better known to this day simply because of the presence of plant patents, not being around. Okay, they had, patents to identify their work.
Their car with Ford and the electricity light bulb with Edison.
Right.
Poor Burbank wasn't able to patent any of this.
Exactly, right. No plant patents existed until 1930, which is 4 years after Burbank died.
Wow.
However, his work directly influenced the first passage of those plant patent laws by Congress in 1930.
Well, let's stand right over here in front of, I mean, it could be right here. Look, we're looking back into where the garden used to be. We've got these beautiful, here's his little cottage. Thank you very much for taking us on this tour. Right. This is a wonderful bit of not only California history, but world history, because what happened right here over 100 years ago is still very important to our daily lives today.
Exactly. Right.
Thank you very much, and we'll all remember the name, Luther Burbank. Continuing this amazing road trip that there's something new and wonderful at every turn, I'm now standing here with Prue Draper. And you are the local historian. Everybody in town says you are the lady we should be hooking up with to find out about Cotati. That's the little town we're in right now.
Right, thank you, Huell. Yes, you're right in the center of Sonoma County. For years, Cotati has called itself the hub of Sonoma County because we're equally distant between Santa Rosa, Petaluma, and Sebastopol.
Now, what's the history, quickly, of this town? Because it's got a rich history, doesn't it?
Well, it does. It was a Spanish land grant, and it was actually the last one in Sonoma County that was broken up, because it was owned by a man named Dr. Thomas Page, who said that until his youngest of 10 children, Willie, was 25, they couldn't subdivide it. That meant it didn't get subdivided until 1893, when they hired a surveyor to lay out the city, lay out the town, then it wasn't an incorporated city, sold mostly small plots to chicken farmers. You can see the remains of a chicken farm right across the street here.
So it was known for its chickens, along with Petaluma.
Like Petaluma, yeah. There was hardly any division between Petaluma and Cotati, actually. It was chicken country.
Now, we just got into town, but I haven't seen any chickens yet, so I assume it's not a chicken town anymore.
Well, there are a couple that stray through the back field down at the Walgreens drugstore, but that's about the only ones in the center of town. Some people still have chickens in their backyards, but no more chicken industry here.
What you do have are amazing structures like the one we're standing in front of right now.
Yes, this is one of our oldest and really most beautiful buildings. It's the Church of the Oaks now. It's a congregational church. It's been here since 1907. It's still very busy. It has many weddings here because it's so picturesque.
Oh, it's absolutely beautiful under this wonderful tree, which has got to have some history to it as well.
Well, Cotati has many beautiful old oaks. In fact, there are groves of them here where there were big 4th of July celebrations back in the turn of the century days.
Right across the street, you have the City Hall, which has its own flavor to it.
Right. The City Hall used to be our school, and then it was actually given for $1 to the city to be City Hall. The city became incorporated in 1963.
That late?
Yeah.
1963?
We were just a town until 63. We're going to have our 40th anniversary next year.
Oh my gosh.
We had to incorporate because we were being surrounded by rapidly growing developments such as Rohnert Park. And we wanted to preserve this little town and became a city, but it's one of the oddest little cities that there is. We pride ourselves on being the quirkiest place in Sonoma County, and Sonoma County is pretty quirky on the whole anyway.
Funny you would bring that up. Because as interesting as your history is, and as beautiful as this old church is, we did not come to Cotati just to find out about its history. We have another reason for being here.
Huell, welcome to the Cotati Accordion Festival.
The Cotati Accordion Festival. Why is there an accordion festival in Cotati?
Well, we think we owe it all to this guy, Jim Bozio, and his friend Clifton Buck Kaufman, who co-founded the festival 12 years ago.
Now, were they accordion players themselves? Obviously.
He was the player, Clifton was the brains. And Jim was not only a great accordion player, but he had that sort of Lou Costello personality.
He looks like Lou Costello.
Everybody loved him, and he made us all laugh. I got to play in his band. I was the bass player. And when he passed away in 1996, we all said, what can we do? There's a hole in our hearts, Huell. So we had some benefits and sold his tapes. We raised $20,000, and we had a local artist cast this, and a foundry here nearby Sebastopol did it, and it was up in time for the festival.
So the statue is here permanently here on the plaza, and this accordion festival, look at this. Look what we've got. You've got a whole plaza full of people.
Yes. In fact, it's 2 days long. It starts at 10 in the morning, goes till 7 at night. The music never stops. And if you don't like the band, you just wait a few minutes and there'll be a different one up. There's country and western, there's polka, there's punk, there's folk, there's French, there's Italian, there's Azerbaijani, there's Afghani.
But it's all on the accordion.
Every group has an accordion. Some of them have 10.
This is wonderful. Now, one of the interesting things about the Cotati Accordion Festival is you never know who you're going to meet. For example, look at this. I think this needs an explanation. Could you introduce yourself to everybody?
Yes, good afternoon. My name is Morgane, and I'm not your average accordion player.
Now, you're part of your whole act, I guess, or whatever you want to call it, are the costumes you show up in every year.
Yes, I always do a very elaborate costume. Yes, and this is probably the most elaborate.
I was going to say, this probably tops them all. What are you dressed as?
Well, I'm trying to make a point here. So, about 100 of them.
Yeah.
And you should see this outfit under black light. It's incredible. It just explodes. Yeah.
Now, on top of all this, which is obviously, you know, showbiz here, you're a very good, accomplished, very well-known and respected accordion player.
Well, I hope so. I've been playing for 50 years. That's what's nice about being in this costume. They have no idea how old I am. But when you say 50 years, well, then I got to be, well, close to 60, yes.
And is accordion music still as popular as it ever was?
I think it's making a comeback. I mean, you hear little bits and pieces of accordion on TV commercials, and bands are using them more and more. It's a very versatile instrument. I think it'll never have the popularity it did in the 50s, but people recognize it as a more legitimate instrument again.
Well, you're sure drawing a crowd. You're still popular here. And what's interesting about this costume, look at this. You've got not only your body is covered, but the accordion is covered as well.
Of course.
Could you play something for us?
What would you like to hear?
Something peppy.
Something peppy, okay.
Yeah.
Something peppy.
Now, all this accordion music, you work up an appetite, don't you?
Yes, sir.
So what are people eating? How many of these?
No, we went through quite a few. These are smoked bratwurst. It's a garlic-based sausage. It comes out of, we make it, but it's a German recipe.
Well, see, that all fits in with this whole accordion kind of a thing, doesn't it?
Yeah, well, we make a lot of sausage, and a lot of these people here, they eat with us every year, so they know who we are. We bring down orders to them and a lot of different things.
So when you come to the Cotati Accordion Festival, you know the people here are going to have a good, hearty appetite.
Oh, yeah, and they eat good, too. So it's a joy to work this. The music's good, the food's good, so, you know, and we're rocking them, man. They're lined up here. It's a good event.
Now we're getting down to it. This is the kind of music, the kind of accordion music that we're used to hearing. How do you describe this music? Was this just good old-fashioned accordion polka music?
I never did this dance, but once I went to this place, I heard accordion music, which is beautiful music. I got to there.
Yeah, it kind of gets in your blood, doesn't it?
But it has to do with some of the partners I have, like in there.
Watch you all the time. What kind of music? How do you describe this?
Polka, mazurkas, waltzes, big band.
But it all kind of centers around the accordion.
Right, exactly.
All right, let's see you all dance here. Oh, this is great. You all having fun? Yeah. You having fun? Seen a single accordion player frowning all day.
It's a good time instrument. It's for having good fun.
Yeah.
Same here. This is the only place to be. This is our 12th year here from the very first day, and I hope it's to the very last.
He's picking out an accordion CD. What's the deal now? Is this what you're going to be listening to in the car?
This guy's terrific, and I enjoy this kind of music. So yeah, I'll listen to this in my car.
When you say this kind of music, you mean just basic good accordion music?
I mean basic Dick Contino lounge act, guy with some swing, guy with some style, playing the accordion well.
You know what? Now, see, I bet accordion music has been shortchanged by a lot of people, hadn't it? Because
I'm not an accordion aficionado. I'm a music lover, but I think accordions are good.
Yeah.
But I didn't come for the accordions. I mean, I came for Dick Contino and music generally.
Blair, you were telling me there's a nickname for these lovely instruments, these accordions.
There is, Huell. They're affectionately known as stomach Steinways, the belly Baldwin, the waistline Wurlitzer, and the Labanza Yamaha.
Oh, I got you. Okay, great names.
Thanks.
We've had a great time. Now, we're getting ready to close up right now. This is the big extravaganza, and I'm standing here with the Lady of Spain and her assistant. Tell us a little bit about what's getting ready to happen here at the Accordion Festival.
I and my friend, my sister, the Lady of Poland, are about to play the famous song, the world famous song, The Lady of Spain, which was played for 6 weeks straight on the radio to win contests by Dick Contino, who's the most famous accordionist in the world right now.
So is that how the Lady of Spain became so synonymous with accordion music?
Exactly. And he plays it here every year, the Lady of Spain, and every year it becomes richer and fuller and more loved.
Boy, she's really into this Lady of Spain thing, but it really has become kind of the synonymous with accordion.
It's their anthem. It's one of the first songs they learned to play, and this is one of the hugest gatherings of people that'll play it anywhere in the world.
So this is going to be a mass playing. Hundreds of accordion players are going to be playing the Lady of Spain in unison.
And we'll release hundreds of white doves into the air to commemorate the event.
Is this some kind of world record that you're setting here?
Every year we go for the world record.
Oh my gosh, what a great way to end our road trip. We have had a wonderful couple of days here in Sonoma County. This is a beautiful, beautiful place to live, a wonderful place to visit. We have met nice people, we've had good food, we've been surrounded by history, and we've certainly been surrounded by music. Sweet, sweet, sweet accordion music. Thank you all so much for your hospitality. I hope you all have had as much fun as we have on this wonderful road trip to Sonoma. We're going to end up, well, how could we top this? Ending up with a group mass Guinness Book of Records rendition of The Lady of Spain. Oh, they're playing it right now. They're breaking into song.
Ready, set, go.
Well, hello everybody, I'm Huell Howser. I hope you enjoyed our road trip to Sonoma County with stops in Sebastopol and the nice little town of Cotati for their annual accordion festival. If you'd like to see it all again or share it with family and friends, all you have to do is call 1-800-266-5727 and we'll be glad to send it to you right away.
Road Trip with Huell Howser has been made possible by the Automobile Club of Southern California.
Wherever you're headed on your next road trip, the Auto Club knows the territory. For travel tips or comprehensive destination information, as well as booking your next family vacation, our website is a great first stop on any journey, no matter how far away your destination may be. Through all life's travels, we're always with you.